On the day of the wedding, my husband's stepmother sent me a photo of a marriage certificate. The bride was her, the groom was my husband. He only married you for a practical arrangement. He and I have relied on each other for 7 years, he can't live without me. No wonder he had been delaying getting our marriage certificate. No wonder, during the ring exchange earlier, she had hugged Huxley, crying as if her heart were breaking, her ample chest nearly pressing into his neck. In my days, my hand trembled, and I spilled wine all over my tall, sturdy childhood friend. What's wrong with you? Can't you even handle such a small thing? Young Master Pierce, my wife is just a country woman who hasn't seen much of the world. Please don't hold it against her. Let me take you to change your clothes? Watching Huxley bow obsequiously to please Pierce Jiangyu, I laughed until my eyes turned red. Might your wife show me the way? Huxley immediately agreed. I led Pierce Jiangyu, the crown prince of Beijing's elite circle, into the dressing room and closed the door. Stubbornly clenching my jaw, I looked at him. Dare to crash the wedding? His Adam's apple bobbed heavily. He stared at me without blinking, then, after a long moment, lit a cigarette. My eyes stung, and tears fell. If you won't, forget it. I turned and had just reached for the doorknob when his warm chest pressed against my back from behind. He spoke through gritted teeth. You little rascal. Back then, you ran off without a word, and now you won't even wait for me to finish a cigarette? He turned me around and gently wiped away my tears. I came today just to see you in your wedding dress. I didn't expect such a pleasant surprise. My face flushed, but I stubbornly lifted my chin. Just answer me, are you going to crash it or not? He sighed helplessly and raised his hands in surrender. I'll crash it. By the time we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau and got into his Bugatti, Huxley's call finally came. Lucy, where did you run off to? So many uncles and elders are waiting for you to toast them. Can't you be a little more sensible? As always, he started with harsh criticism. In the past, I would have anxiously apologized and tried to soothe his temper. But now, it wasn't necessary anymore. Hearing my silence, he grew impatient. Where's Mr. Pierce? I couldn't find him in the dressing room earlier. Where did you take him? Warm breath brushed against the back of my neck, and I shivered. I sent him home. He paused for a few seconds, his voice suddenly rising. You know Mr. Pierce? Why did you send him home? Doesn't he have a driver? My chest felt tight. Unconsciously, I gripped our marriage certificate tightly and took a deep breath. Huxley, let's break up. He froze for a moment, his voice turning cold. What are you throwing a tantrum about now? Is it because of what I said during the toasts? Or because my mom pressured you to drink? There are so many family elders here today. My mom just wanted you to make a good impression, to seem generous and dignified. Besides, the Pierce Group just gave us a major project. How could you offend him, of all people? If I hadn't spoken harshly, do you think he would have let you off? I pressed my lips together, too emotionally exhausted to say a word. The Pierce Group's project, I was the one who had asked the man behind me for it. Seeing that I wasn't responding, Huxley's patience finally ran out. Fine. Break up then. Don't come crying to me later, begging to get back together. The next second, the call ended. The screen showed the call duration, 1 minute and 43 seconds. That was the limit of his patience with me. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. The boy who had once played guitar outside my courtyard all night just to make me smile was gone forever. Letting Pierce Jiangyu wipe my tears away, I gently grabbed the hem of his shirt. I'll go back and pack my things, then come find you. When I pushed open the door, stepmother Lily he was wearing nothing but an apron around her bare neck, feeding Huxley at the stove. They looked like a newlywed couple. Upon seeing me enter, their cheerful chatter abruptly stopped. Huxley scoffed, glancing at his watch. 1 hour and 7 minutes. Came crawling back after all? Lily he brought a bowl of noodles to the table, a hint of smugness flashing at the corner of her mouth. Lucy, I have to say, who runs away in the middle of a wedding? Where does that leave Huxley's dignity? Besides, the elders were planning to hand over the family business to Huxley after the wedding. With your little stunt, what will they think? You're ruining this opportunity right when it's within reach. How can you do this to him? I smirked coldly and walked past them. Lucy. Huxley shot up, the chair screeching against the floor. Mother is talking to you. Have you no manners? I turned sideways, giving him a cold glance. What is there to say? Isn't this exactly what you two planned? Use me and then drive me away so you can be together? I've been so obedient, following your script. Why are you still complaining? You. What nonsense are you spouting? Huxley took a step back, looking at Lily he in disbelief. Ugh. Lily he suddenly clutched her forehead and began to moan. Her devoted son immediately rushed over to hold her, his voice full of concern. Mom, what's wrong? It's nothing, just my headache acting up again. She trembled and buried herself in Huxley's arms, shooting me a provocation look before bursting into tears again. Lucy, how could you slander me like this? Yes, I'm only 5 years older than Huxley, but since his father passed away 7 years ago, I've done right by the family. I've treated Huxley as my own son. How could you accuse me of seducing him? Everyone says you're just a country girl with no class, but I always believed you were a good person. I never thought you'd spread such rumors to drive me away on your first day as part of this family. Huxley's doubtful gaze instantly turned venomous. He glared at me and snapped, apologize to Mother right now. I slowly shook my head. Not a chance. I turned to leave. My repeated refusals pushed Huxley over the edge. He yanked me back from the stairs, his grip painful on my arm. Lucy, our family won't tolerate disloyalty and disrespect from the younger generation. You must apologize to Mother. Seeing the tears welling in my eyes, his expression flickered, and his tone softened. Otherwise, he didn't finish. I finished for him through tearful laughter. Otherwise, get out of the family? Exactly WH. Shut up. He clamped a hand over my mouth, warning me through gritted teeth. Can't you stop causing trouble? Ever since we started planning the wedding, you've been jealous of Mother. Do you really think I'm such a morally bankrupt monster? Are you underestimating me, or yourself? He shoved me hard, and my back hit the sharp edge of the stairs, instantly bruising. It was always Lily he who provoked me behind his back. Every time I tried to explain, he dismissed it as jealousy. He looked down at me, his face tight with suppressed rage. Go kneel and apologize to Mother now, and we can move past this. We'll have a good future together. I staggered to my feet and met his eyes. Huxley, we have no future. He froze for a second, then his eyes blazed with fury. In a fit of rage, he hoisted me over his shoulder and locked me in a dusty storage room. You can come out when you've figured out how to be a proper wife. As the lock clicked, I slammed my hands against the door, screaming hoarsely, Huxley, you're insane. I'll sue you for unlawful imprisonment. I kept shouting until my voice gave out. But only silence answered me. Once everything was quiet, the pain from my bruises set in, and exhaustion overwhelmed me. As I drifted in and out of consciousness, I overheard servants whispering outside. The missus might have a point. The madam often goes to the young master's room in sexy nightgowns in the middle of the night. Shoo, don't say any more. I don't even dare mention it. This family is disgusting. The only decent one is being abused, I can't stand it. Slap. Cries and the sound of a slap echoed. Lily's arrogant voice grew closer. Keep making a scene. The more you do, the sooner Huxley will be mine. You know, every time you slept in that shabby greenhouse tending to your flowers, it was me comforting Huxley in bed. A country bumpkin like you doesn't deserve him. No wonder, every time I returned at dawn after nurturing my flowers, I saw her swaying out of our room. Whenever I brought it up to Huxley, he would cut me off rudely, saying I was delusional and jealous. The thought of him kissing me with the same lips that had kissed Lily he made me nauseous. Disgusting. The lock rattled, and she opened the door. Dressed in a see-through nightgown, she swayed in. Want to see something even more disgusting? She bent down, revealing dense red marks all over her collarbone. As I retched again, she smiled triumphantly. He's so passionate in bed, he took me 7 times in one night. Almost broke my back. If I weren't pregnant, I wouldn't have moved against you. Actually, a marriage of convenience would have been fine, you could have been our cover. But how could my child call a country bumpkin like you mom? Her crimson nails dug into my chin. Are you even worthy? Furious at her actions, I viciously bit down on the base of her thumb, refusing to let go even as her sharp nails scratched my face. Her screams and cries instantly drew Huxley. He was furious and ordered all the servants to swarm in. They bound me tightly and dripped scalding candle wax onto my mouth. By the 18th drop, my lips were covered in blisters, and the pain finally forced me to let go. Huxley held the pitiful Lily in his arms, tenderly applying ointment to her wound himself. He glared at me with rage. Lucy, I am so disappointed in you. Since you are so spoiled and refuse to repent, don't blame me for being harsh. With blood and foam filling my mouth, I laughed and cried, nearly suffocating. The way he rushed to condemn me without even asking for the truth was utterly disgusting. The spotlight from the hall cast a glow behind him, shrouding Huxley's tall figure in darkness. It was the same familiar silhouette, the boy who walked the mountain path toward my cottage on every summer night filled with the chirping of insects, under a sky sprinkled with stars that dappled his face, making my younger heart flutter. That face in the shadows once held the warm smile I longed for most. Now, it had become a grotesque monster that turned my stomach. Pa! I spat a mouthful of blood and foam at him, halting his approach. His face instantly turned pale. Clenching a whip, his eyes filled with confusion and anger. Lily, he began to whimper again, delicately placing her hand on his. Huxley, isn't this too severe? 1 round of the family punishment, and she'll be disabled if not dead. Can you bear that? Her jade-like hand, now missing a chunk of flesh, waved before Huxley's eyes. The last trace of hesitation in his gaze finally vanished. Mother, there's no need to plead for her. Since she has married into the family, she belongs to the family in life and in death. This is just to temper her spoiled temper, so she learns to respect her elders. If this reaches the uncles, no one can save her. Crack! Crack! Lash after lash, the barbed whip struck my back, tearing skin and flesh, drawing blood. By the time 20 strokes ended, my back was a bloody, mangled mess, and I was barely breathing. A porcelain bottle was thrown at my face. His icy voice drifted above me. Here's medicine. Apply it to her. But even by the next day, when I was burning with fever, no one had applied the medicine. I struggled to my feet, stumbling toward the kitchen for water, bitter laughter escaping me. Then, I overheard their hushed conversation. Huxley, are you sure it's all right not to take Lucy to the hospital? He paused his chopping. The whip wasn't barbed. It just looks bad. I've already had the servants apply our family's ancestral ointment. She'll be fine. Lily, he said with a tinge of jealousy, you're so good to her. Even after such a huge mistake, you're cooking for her yourself. If your father had been half as good, I would have been content. Don't worry, Mother. I will discipline her properly in the future, and we will both take care of you. Actually, I've always wondered, so many wealthy socialites have liked you over the years. Why were you so fixated on Lucy? Everything fell silent except for the bubbling of boiling water. I held my breath, pressed against the wall outside the kitchen. I was waiting for him to say it himself, whatever it was, so I could finally let go of this relationship. Huxley's cold voice was like a knife plunged into my heart. It didn't draw blood, but it still stole my breath. She's low maintenance. I used to think she wasn't like those high-maintenance socialites. Turns out, they're all the same. And now he was the one feeling wronged. Thank you, sub 30 decibel whisper, for ringing louder than a bell and shattering the last bit of hope in my heart. Tears fell silently, bidding farewell to the boy I once knew. In a daze, I was back in that summer. I, who loved nature, had thrown a fit and refused to inherit the steel empire of the Lucy family. I ran to the mountains, built a house, and spent my days with flowers, insects, and birds. There, I met Huxley, a runaway teen who'd fought with his father. He carried a pure white canvas. First, he painted the flowers I grew, then the house I built, and finally, day after day, he painted me dancing among the blossoms. Under a canopy of dazzling crimson trumpet vines, he knelt on one knee and slipped a bamboo ring onto my finger. We promised forever. Later, to inherit his father's business, he threw away his brushes and begged me to leave with him. For him, I abandoned my dream of the mountain woods and returned to the concrete city. I washed his clothes, cooked his meals, warmed his bed, and whispered through the nights. All my tenderness and patience, 8 years of love, were reduced to 3 flippant words from him: low maintenance. The metallic taste of blood choked my throat. Violent coughs alerted the two in the kitchen. I couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed. When I woke, Huxley was sitting by the bed reviewing documents. He lifted his thin eyelids and glanced at me. He brought over a bowl of porridge. Eat. I made it myself. I turned my head away, my voice hoarse. Get me my phone. Seeing me continuously replying to messages without acknowledging him, he frowned irritably. Who are you texting? Another message came through. It was from Pierce Jianyu. Wifey. When are you coming home? Second day missing you. I smiled, turned off my phone, and said cold shoulder, you don't know them. Flower friends. Since returning to the city with him, I'd lived a reclusive life, revolving entirely around him. Only a handful of gardening friends were left to chat with, or so I'd led him to believe. Unsuspicious, he relaxed and cleared his throat. The servant who switched to a barbed whip and didn't apply your medicine has been dealt with. Rest well. In a few days, accompany me to the ancestral home to meet the elders. Consider it your formal acceptance into the family. What was this? A beating followed by a sweet treat? I nodded without a word. I'd already asked Pierce Jianyu to send someone for me. A few days? Like hell that mattered to me. Pleased by my obedience, Huxley was in a rare good mood. He directed servants to carry box after box of designer bags and custom-made clothing into my room. He thought, as always, that throwing expensive gifts at me would make me happy. He never knew that in the past, to avoid disappointing him, I only pretended to be pleased. What I truly loved, he never bothered to learn. All those birthdays he missed. The trips he promised and then cancelled. The times he negated my career plans to save face. The way he isolated and manipulated me with his macho possessiveness until I broke. They had long become cracks etched deep into my heart. At midnight, he finished work and pushed the door open. He bent down to kiss me. I shoved him away violently. Surprise flickered in his eyes. A heavy diamond necklace dangled from his hand, reflecting a cold gleam. I acted as if I didn't see it, turning over to lie down. Go sleep in the guest room. Lucy, you. He rubbed his temples wearily, loosening his tie, impatience written all over his face. Can you stop causing trouble? It's bad enough you're no help with work. Can't you at least avoid adding to my stress? I laughed coldly inside. Over the past 7 years, every time he faced a setback in his career, I secretly used my connections to pave the way for him. Afraid of wounding his pride, I never revealed that I was behind it all. Step by step, I lifted him to his current position, on the verge of leading the family. Now that he'd climbed to the top, he looked down on me as dirt. You nearly killed me, and you expect me to be gentle with you? Be grateful I'm not pressing charges. Exposed, he flew into a shameful rage. You're utterly impossible. I regret ever marrying you. With those harsh words, he slammed the door and left. I closed my eyes, and the absurd 8 years played like a revolving lantern in my mind. My heart beat slowly, like a broken music box, screeching a discordant tune of rotten love. The clear-eyed, laughing boy with a paintbrush from the deep mountains had finally metamorphosed a selfish, hypocritical pile of rotten bones. The door suddenly creaked open, a sliver of light tempting me to peek into an indescribable hell. I knew I shouldn't look or listen. But my feet moved on their own to the guest room door. Through a crack, I saw their naked bodies intertwined, drenched in sweat. Lily, he wore the dazzling blue diamond necklace that should have been mine around her neck. She shot me a provocation smile. Huxley, we have a child now. Be gentle. Why does having a child mean I can't kiss you? I hate that. He thrust deeper. I'm going to punish you hard. Their moans grew louder. I had planned to let her off since she was pregnant. But since she insisted on shitting on my head one last time, I saw no reason to hold back. I opened the camera and started recording. Then, after a thought, I opened a popular live streaming platform and went live. 3 hours later, sore and exhausted, I returned to my room to pack. By my estimate, Pierce Jiangyu's car should already be waiting outside. To my surprise, Lily, who'd fight Ed all night, haunted her way into my room again. You're truly pathetic. Your heart must be broken, yet you watched all night? When I showed no reaction, she angrily slapped a precious lotus lamp off the windowsill. This was a rare flower Huxley had searched the entire country for when we first returned to the city, afraid I wouldn't adjust. The pink hanging lotus, nurtured for 7 years and finally bloomed, was now crushed into mud, just like my 7-year itch of a relationship. A deafening roar exploded in my mind. I mustered all my strength and shoved her away, my hands trembling as I reached toward the pile of shattered clay and petals. Just a worthless pot of plants. Why treasure it so much? I've been sick of the sight of it for ages. Be smart and get lost. Huxley is mine forever. The child in my belly will be the family's sole heir. She stood with her hands on her hips, ranting incessantly behind me. Maybe it was better this way. Now, there was nothing left tethering me to Huxley. I forced the words through gritted teeth. You think I'd believe a photoshopped marriage certificate? Asterisk smack. Smack, asterisk. She slapped my face left and right with the document, then opened it right in front of me, a look of triumph on her face. See it clearly now? Lily, always strike with one hit. Might as well tell you, the loser, if I could handle your tough father-in-law back in the day, what's a mere Huxley? He's just putty in my hands. I applauded sarcastically. I admit defeat. I'll leave right away. Suddenly, noise came from outside the door. Lily, abruptly stumbled backward, tore her clothes, and slammed into the vanity. Huxley, shirtless, rushed in and frantically gathered a bleeding Lily into his arms, loudly calling for servants to stop the bleeding. She cried pitifully, I got up early to make you breakfast and heard her smashing things. I came to check. I never thought Lucy would suddenly call me a seductress and attack me like this. Woo-woo. Huxley's eyes held not a trace of warmth when he looked at me. Lucy, must you really throw the family into chaos? It's not enough. I don't want to hear your excuses. He viciously kicked over my suitcase, laughing in extreme anger. Since your bags are already packed, get the hell back to your remote mountains. Don't come crying to me later begging to return. Staggering, I dragged my suitcase up and took one last, deep look at Huxley. Then I turned and left the villa, slipping into the Bugatti that had been waiting all along. You got everything I sent you, right? Pierce Jiangyu held me tightly, his voice pained. Lucy, are you really sure about this? I grasped his hand in return, firm in my response. I'm sure. This time, I'm going to ruin him completely. Anything you say, Lucy. The familiar scent of woody gardenia made me drowsy. When I woke up, I found myself in the super VIP ward of the Pierce Family Hospital. Pierce Jiangyu was clumsily peeling an apple by my bedside. I giggled, my eyes reddening slightly. Still laughing, he grumbled, stuffing the apple into my mouth. Is this any way to handle things? If I'd known they'd abuse you like this, I never should have let that good-for-nothing take you away 7 years ago. I was slightly stunned. 7 years ago? How did he know? Realizing his slip, Pierce Jiangyu didn't plan to hide it any longer. The little princess of the Liu family, whom he'd adored since childhood, had always been his most treasured person. On countless days when roses bloomed, he would run to the lawn of her estate, call for her to come down, and show her the birthday gifts he'd brought. Sometimes a grasshopper made from bamboo leaves, sometimes a doll that could fly. He counted the years, one after another, waiting for his little princess to grow up and graduate from university. But the princess suddenly rebelled, had a huge fight with her family, and ran away from home. She only told him, sneaking away to a remote mountain forest where the young princess used her tender, pale hands to build her own log cabin. Amid the green woods and clear streams, with flags fluttering in the wind, he secretly visited a few times, never daring to show himself. Only because the little princess had said she didn't want to be disturbed. But this command he treated as sacred was easily broken by that pretty-faced nobody. That waste of space easily used a guitar and paintbrush to steal away the princess he had waited 18 years for. During the year he spied on our relationship. Pierce Jiangyu tortured himself daily, lingering outside the bamboo forest, sleeping on the floor of an abandoned cabin. He secretly took millions of photos of me, his eyes reddening as he traced them in the dead of night. When I left the mountains, he finally returned to the Pierce Corporation, silently vowing to be my strongest support. Does it hurt you that I came to you for help because of Huxley? He closed his eyes, pulling me gently into his embrace. It was like holding a damp cloud. Amid thunder and lightning, the dark clouds shed raindrops, washing away all the filth and impurities. I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt, but I'm also glad you came to me again and again. It makes me feel like I still have a chance. I lowered my head, wiped my tears, and looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes. I pinched his chin with one hand, my gaze tracing the lines of his face. A faint blush crept from his neck to the tips of his ears. The aloof, noble crown prince seen by outsiders actually had this pure, innocent side. It was tantalizing. Do you really like me that much? My fingertips lightly scratched his chin, making him shiver. His voice was hoarse, I do. I like you more than anything. His Adam's apple bobbed. The next second, I bent down and gently licked his Adam's apple, then kissed my way up to his lips. I looked at him through fluttering lashes. He shuddered all over, like a knight finally receiving a decree from his princess. His large hand cupped the back of my head, pressing me toward him, not allowing any retreat. Little by little, his scorching breath filled my mouth. It was a long time before I found my breath again in his arms. If I hadn't asked you to crash the wedding that day, would you have dared? I thought about snatching you away 10,000 times in my mind, locking you up, letting only me admire your beauty. His chest vibrated against my back, bringing a tingling itch. But I didn't dare. I was afraid of making you cry, afraid you'd blame me for ruining your happiness. Lulu, I might be crazy. The thought of you crying makes me miserable, but asking me to generously bless you with another man, it feels like a piece of my heart is missing. It hurts too much. I flipped through the photos he had secretly taken of me on his phone, page by page. The vibrant mountain forest seemed to come alive before my eyes. I could almost see that perpetually dignified young man, clumsily pacing back and forth among the trees. His clothes went from neat to disheveled, his lonely yet proud figure counting the sunsets over and over, licking his wounds in that broken-down cabin. My heart ached with every beat. So that box of chocolates I had stored away in a corner and forgotten, when opened again, still held that sweetness uniquely meant for me, a sweetness that was also heartbreaking. While Pierce Jiangyu and I were confessing our feelings to each other, the Huxley Group was experiencing an unprecedented earthquake. Explosive headlines on major national platforms were turning the entire family upside down. Huxley commits incest with stepmother. Huxley 7 times in one night, so impressive. The life of Lily He, rising to power by sleeping her way up. Son got stepmother pregnant, should the child call him brother or daddy? Pierce Group withdraws all cooperative projects with the Huxley family. Huxley and Lily He's marriage certificate. All hashtags surpassed 1 billion views overnight. High-definition and censored videos of Huxley and Lily He were saved and reposted by netizens everywhere. No matter how much the Huxley Group tried to delete them, they couldn't be eradicated. 1 billion netizens charged into battle, besieging all brands under the Huxley umbrella, causing the company's stock to plummet. Overnight, countless supermarkets and brands faced unilateral termination of contracts from distributors and partners. They were confronted with massive compensation for breach of contract. This is so disgusting. Didn't Huxley just get married? Then he turns around and sleeps with his stepmom? The wealthy circles are truly filthy. Huxley's wife is so pitiful, calculated by her husband and mother-in-law for a marriage of convenience, just to be their cover? My eyes are contaminated. My curious hand clicked on the video. HD and uncensored, DM me if you need it. Trash man and cheap woman deserve each other. I smell a rising femme fatale revenge story. Good for Huxley's wife. Listed below are all the brands under the Huxley Corporation. Everyone, please avoid them XX. Inside the shareholders' meeting room at the Huxley Group headquarters. Chairman Hu Qinggang slammed an iPad violently against Huxley's head, causing blood to instantly gush out. Huxley. Our family has always valued competence. You've done so well for so many years. How could you finally be brought down by such a vile woman? Huxley pressed his lips together, opened the iPad, and scrolled through the headlines. Within moments, his face turned as pale as a corpse. Impossible, impossible. Hu Qinggang slammed his cane heavily on the floor. The facts speak for themselves. I thought I could hand the company over to you, but you're a fool led by your lust. You disregard your rightful partner and engage in this perverse, unethical affair. Impossible. The videos are deep fakes. Someone is trying to ruin me. He refuted hoarsely, but was met with the cold stares of the numerous uncles and elders present. We've already verified them. The videos are authentic. Moreover, the account that filmed them was live streaming last night. These are recordings from that stream. He collapsed to the floor in despair. The unmistakable, passionate dialogue from the video played aloud in the meeting room. My dear son, mother loves you so much. Let our child inherit the family empire in the future, okay? Okay, everything for you. I'll give you everything. The familiar voices were undoubtedly his and his mother's. But the content of the conversation left his mind completely blank. This was impossible. Last night, after Lucy kicked him out of the room, he had gone to sleep in a guest room. His mother had, as usual, kindly brought him a glass of milk to drink. After that, he had slept straight through until morning. Then the argument between his mother and Lucy had woken him up. He couldn't figure out where things had gone wrong. A sigh, weary yet still holding a trace of paternal care, came from above him. It felt familiar, but it chilled him to the bone. Sure, you have proven yourself unworthy of major responsibility. The position of patriarch will be handed to another. The group's stock has crashed, and we are facing enormous compensation payouts and losses. I will liquidate and package all the assets under your name. You will personally bear the full responsibility for these losses. Do you have any objections? This unfamiliar look in his uncle's eyes reminded him of the expression his father used to have when he raised his cane to beat him. The eyes might have seemed kind, even drooping slightly at the corners, but the mouth was a tight, severe line, looking at him as if he were a dead fish on a butcher's block. A bolt of pure panic shot through him. Clutching his suit jacket, he fled the room in a blind rush. The engine of his car roared as he stomped on the accelerator. He screeched to a halt at the villa, flung the door open, and immediately saw Lily He, swaying her hips by the stove, humming as she stirred a pot of soup. She turned, a practiced look of surprise spreading across her face. Shower, you're back? Mother made you some soup. You must have some later. She reached out with a tissue, dabbing solicitously at the sweat on his brow. As she leaned in, He looked down and saw the pale swell of her breasts pressed tightly against his arm. His vision seemed to darken. His eyes darted around the room, scanning. Details he had never noticed before suddenly screamed for his attention. All the potted plants and floral arrangements Lucy had carefully placed throughout the living room were gone, replaced with garish, cheap-looking fake flowers. The elegant, new kitchenware sets Lucy had chosen had been swapped out for an unfamiliar, ostentatious black and gold set. He slowly, deliberately, peeled Lily's hand from his arm. He forced his lips into a stiff, unnatural smile. "Mother, I have a craving. I'd like you to make scallion oil ribs, braised prawns, and Buddha jumps over the wall for me." After Lily, preening with delight, hurried out the door to buy groceries, he took the stairs 2 at a time, bursting into the second-floor master bedroom. The Medinilla Magnifica that had bloomed this year, Lucy's favorite, was gone. The bedsheets and duvet cover Lucy had picked out were gone, replaced by a new, unfamiliar set. Including all the custom-made dresses and designer handbags he had bought for her. Everything was gone. The wedding portrait on the bedside table had been replaced by a photograph of his mother and him. It was taken on the day of his wedding photo shoot with Lucy. His mother had insisted on pulling him aside for a separate picture. Lucy had muttered her displeasure about it that day, and he had scowled and scolded her. He had reprimanded her for being childish and creating drama over nothing. He dragged a hand down his face, the veins at his temples throbbing violently. A sickening sense of dread coiled in his gut. He walked slowly, like a man in a trance, into the second room, the room that had been Lucy's sanctuary. He returned home with the maid, bags of groceries in hand, and was immediately startled by the sight of Huxley sitting on the sofa, his face a thunderous black cloud. A dozen or more household servants stood in 2 silent, obedient rows in the main hall. Her heart fluttered with sudden, irrational fear. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, nervously instructed the maid to put the groceries away, and approached him cautiously. "Show her, what is the meaning of this?" Smack. A collection of pill bottles, all horrifyingly familiar to her, were hurled onto the floor at her feet. Her heart seized. But she forced a smile, layering on a mask of innocent confusion. What is all this?" "Heh." A cold, mirthless laugh escaped him. "What is this?" "You know better than anyone, my dear, There." Huxley's voice dropped to a low, venomous growl as he slowly looked up at her, the storm in his eyes building. He rose from the sofa, his tall frame towering over her, casting her completely in his shadow. He looked down at her with utter contempt. "You used these white pills. Every night. In my milk. To make me hallucinate? To make me think you were her?" His greatest secret, laid bare. She began to tremble uncontrollably, fear locking her joints, her teeth sinking into her lower lip. Why? How? She had sworn all the servants to secrecy. Which one of them had betrayed her? Her eyes, sharp with venomous hatred, darted toward the few newer staff members. A large hand shot out and clamped around her throat, slamming her brutally against the wall. "Still looking for others to blame? You filthy whore." Huxley's eyes were pitch black, a maelstrom of fury about to break loose. Terrified tears instantly streamed down Lily's face. Her hand scrabbled uselessly at his iron grip. Within moments, her face turned purple, her eyes began to roll back into her head. The hand around her neck released its pressure. She collapsed to the floor, gasping and choking, greedily sucking air into her burning lungs. Huxley returned to his seat on the sofa. With a slight flick of his eyes, servants on either side stepped forward, holding a large pair of pliers. Then 2 boxes of painkillers, a syringe, and a taser were produced. "If you want to live, you will confess every single disgusting thing you have done. Clearly. One by one. Get one word wrong, and I pull one tooth. If the pain makes you faint, we'll wake you up with the taser. Afraid of the pain? I have painkillers. Perhaps an injection first?" Huxley's voice was that of a demon from the deepest pit, terrifying Lily into confessing everything. After hearing her full confession, his face turned as dark and still as a statue in the dead of night. He was motionless. As if unable to believe it, he asked mechanically, "Lucy, she knew all of this? You're telling me that I, for the sake of a vile servant like you, hurt her again and again, while she knew everything?" It felt like all the blood in his body was freezing solid. A massive, crippling terror, sharp as a blade, stabbed straight through his heart. No wonder she had looked at him with such disgust. No wonder the Lucy who had loved him so deeply had looked at him as if he were the murderer of her father. And that day, he had driven her away for this woman. Those cold, utterly emotionless eyes suddenly flashed in his mind. She had said, "Don't you dare regret this." He suddenly found it hard to breathe. Had she been saying goodbye to him then? Was she never coming back? No. He had to find her. Immediately. She was an orphan, with no relatives or close friends. If he could just explain everything, Lucy would surely forgive him. No, first he had to clean up the mess here. Losing the family company, not becoming the patriarch, it didn't matter. He had never truly cared for those things anyway. Fine. Shed everything. Dismiss the household staff. He would go back to those mountains, find Lucy, and they would live a simple, happy life together, like two carefree immortals. Show her, "I love you. Since your father died, I've treated you as my own. And now I'm carrying your child. You can't abandon me." Her shrill voice dragged Huxley back to the present. A flash of murderous intent crossed his eyes. He issued the command in a low, grim voice. "Make her experience every single method she used to hurt Lucy. If the bastard child in her belly dies under the family punishment, consider it atonement." The servants, who had suffered under Lily's cruelty for so long, instantly surrounded her, dragging her by her hair toward the storage room. As the sounds of whips cracking and the sizzle of hot wax dripping began, the screams from inside gradually turned into curses. "Huxley, you bastard! I hope you die a horrible death. Killing your own flesh and blood, you're worse than an animal. You're not still dreaming of getting that bitch Lucy back, are you? Even if you were ignorant, you hurt her for my sake countless times. She will never take you back. Never. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha, karma. I killed your father, and you killed your son. Huxley, you useless coward, just kill me if you have the guts." The stream of curses finally subsided into choked, broken sobs. "Heal her wounds. Since she enjoys climbing into bed so much, throw her to the beggars. Let her climb into as many as she wants." The news of the marriage alliance between the two most powerful financial families of the capital sent shockwaves through high society. The Pierce family, with assets spanning the globe, and the Liu family, a titan of the steel industry, were joining forces. The wedding hadn't even begun, but previews and announcements flooded the world a month in advance. The internet was saturated with videos of the grand romantic gestures. There was the young master of the Pierce family, buying out every flower shop in the capital to build a magical castle of 10,000 blossoms for his little Liu princess. Pierce Jiangyu donating to 999 hope projects to accumulate merit and virtue for his little Liu princess. Pierce Jiangyu buying out all the maternity and baby stores in the capital, building a mother and child paradise in their love nest. Pierce Jiangyu, at the ancient, nationally protected temple, kowtowing with every step up the mountain, procuring a sacred relic jade pendant to pray for blessings for their unborn child. Almost overnight, the entire city knew that the crown prince of the capital's elite, who had remained celibate for 30 years, was utterly, desperately in love with the little princess of the Liu family. As for who this little princess was, what she looked like, someone dug up her college graduation photo. Among the tens of thousands of comments, some noticed a striking resemblance to the recently disgraced daughter-in-law of the ruined Huxley family. But this was quickly dismissed. If the Liu family's little princess had married into the Huxley family, Huxley would have had to have his brain crushed by a door to betray her. On the wedding day, I was so nervous I couldn't eat anything, my heart fluttering anxiously. An endless expanse of flowers in 24 colors formed a sea of stars, rolling like mountains. Under the dazzling, brilliant spotlight, I walked slowly in my white wedding gown towards my groom. The composed crown prince, who had been calmly chatting and laughing moments before, stood staring at me like a love-struck fool. "Lulu, you are so beautiful," he gently drew me to his side. "I'm so afraid this is a dream." I answered him with a passionate kiss, pulling him back to reality. "For better, for worse, do you?" A man, filthy and ragged like a beggar, suddenly lunged onto the stage, screaming hoarsely. She does not consent." Security reacted instantly, tackling him to the ground, pinning his arms behind his back. But the man twisted his head, the whites of his eyes showing wildly, and shrieked with his ruined voice, "Lucy! It's me. Huxley. I regret it. It was my mistake. Come back with me." Pierce Jiangyu took a step forward, but I stopped him, soothing him with a kiss on his lips. I gathered my skirt and turned calmly to look at the man I had loved for 8 years. I hadn't expected the downfall of the Huxley family to reduce him to such a state. The man who was once as clean and bright as the morning sun was now a filthy, stinking beggar, despised by all. "Huxley," I said, my voice clear and steady. "I told you once, we have no future. I do not regret leaving, and you shouldn't regret it either." The words seemed to physically strike him. He let out a heart-wrenching, agonized sob. "Lucy! What happened with my mother? She drugged me with hallucinogens. In those moments, I thought she was you. We never got a marriage certificate. It was fake. I know I was wrong. Let's go back, live a good life together, okay? From now on, I'll listen to everything you say, okay? Please?" I laughed until I bent double. "Huxley, even now, do you really think there's a single part of you that is worthy of me? You were blind. You didn't cherish me when I loved you with all my heart. Now that you see I'm an heiress, you come crawling back? Have you no shame, Huxley?" He looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He stared at me, the last flicker of hope in his eyes extinguishing like a snuffed-out candle. He went limp, no longer struggling, allowing the security guards to drag him away. Unnoticed by anyone, a cheap ring, price tag still attached reading 998 yuan, rolled out of a torn pocket in his ragged clothes. A little girl in a pink dress, chasing a balloon, accidentally stepped on it, pressing it deep into the soft turf, where it disappeared from view. Huxley was dumped by the garbage bins at the entrance. "Try coming back and disrupting the wedding again, and we'll break both your legs." He stared blankly into the sunlight, the brightness forcing tears from his eyes. No one knew that on his way to the mountains to find Lucy with his last 8,000 yuan, he had been robbed and left with nothing. But he hadn't given up. He had begged his way all the way up the mountain, only to find that Lucy wasn't there at all. He had then turned around and begged his way back to the capital, eventually becoming the wretched creature he was now. All that time, hope had kept him going. He had never felt tired. But now, he felt hollowed out. An exhaustion deeper than any he had ever known settled into his bones. Maybe it would be better to just die like this. There was no one left in this world who cared about him anyway.